Welcome to Advancing Healthcare Through Digital Transformation. This session is going to be on 3 must-have security tools. Today's agenda, we'd like to talk about why and how cyber criminals act. How do they behave? What do they focus on? We want to introduce you to, say, 3 best bang for the buck tools that you should consider in your environment, and then we'll summarize the session. My name is Ed Higgins. I direct our security and compliance team here at Quisitive. So let's first talk about how and why cyber criminals or bad actors do what they do. And why do they target healthcare? Healthcare is a leading area that cyber bad actors or criminals want to target. Some of that is because the type of data that is there. If you think of a patient's health records, those are permanent records, might include their social security number, health history, medications, and so forth. And as you can imagine, when a credit card gets taken, you call your bank, or the bank's fraud detection unit picks up on that and will cancel the card number, and then that value of that card goes to zero. But in the case of personal information, that data stays active. Healthcare is a leading target for cyber criminals. The healthcare industry is one of the most targeted industries. Healthcare organizations have a wide range of sensitive data, patient health records. It has a high long-term value that we'll get into in a second, as well as maybe payment card data. So there's a lot of valuable data inside the healthcare environments. The second one is its critical infrastructure. Attackers know that healthcare institution is more likely to pay the ransom to restore the data than maybe other environments. Some of the common threats based on that are ransomware, malware, phishing. Those top 3 are things that really target our user communities. If you think about it, ransomware just doesn't show up. It's usually initiated by something. Same thing with malware. And that thing is usually phishing. Someone receives an email with a link and they click on the link. That creates the surface for a bad actor to do their thing. Data breaches. Healthcare organizations store large amounts of data. And so sometimes that data gets disclosed by accident. Someone makes a mistake and reveals sensitive data. That, technically is a security breach. If a bad actor could get the account of a user, they can elevate privilege. They can become that user and then navigate the network, try to raise their privilege to an administrative account and take over the environment. That's typically what they try to do. So some tools that produce the best bang for the buck based on the attack surfaces. Since 80% or greater of all attacks target users, unwitting users, the recommendation here for our first of the 3 best bang for buck tools you should consider, the number one thing, the tools that can detect and automatically block phishing, that is high on the number 1 list. Get that. Find the best tools that works for you. Call us, talk to us, we'll help you. Make sure that your phishing tools are effectively able to detect and block it so that 0 of those types of emails go to the inboxes of users. And that is possible. The second part of that is employee awareness, because there's always going to be something that gets through. Sometimes you might find something in the junk folder, and clicking it there is just as bad as if it's in your inbox. So we always want to educate and reinforce that. Always have an effective, frequent employee awareness training program. The second part of phishing is a link that takes a user to a faked website where they're encouraged, or it looks like a site that they're used to seeing. Maybe it could be a bank, it could be another application inside the healthcare environment that has been compromised, and that is actually a fake website in some darknet. And when the user goes there, it looks just like, their own environment. But when they authenticate, put their username and password into then they're actually giving their username and password to the bad actor. And then they use that to log into the real site and become you. And that's that account takeover that I was speaking of. So on that, tools like site validation, employee awareness, and multi-factor. Multi-factor authentication resolves 100% of that issue entirely. So the second one, if you've got a limited budget, then put the money where it matters the most. Like in the first one, we solve 80% of the problem with those few little pieces that make up that recommendation number one. And here we talk about the data. So we generally all know what sensitive data is. It's a person's social security number, or PII, their name, their address, their phone number. Those information about a person, could be a patient, could be a doctor, could be a nurse, or it could be just any person, but that's PII, a personally identifiable information. Protected health information are those things that are regulated by HIPAA. Protected health information is that data that has a very, very high value. In some cases, the value of a single stolen healthcare patient record, a protected health record, is $1,000. So if you think about, having hundreds of thousands of patient records in a system, that database becomes very lucrative to a bad actor, and that is why they try to target it. What we often see in our line of business is that the tools that can protect that data are sometimes missing. Being able to understand where that data exists and protect it, encrypt it, and tag it automatically as sensitive, and applying zero trust principles helps to resolve that issue completely, both for data at rest and data in transit when it's moving from point A to point B. And the second part is when it's at rest, when it's sitting on the disk drive or in the cloud or in the email. And number three is it's not a matter of if, it's actually a matter of when our environments suffer an intrusion. Every environment is going to go through a security intrusion of one form or another. It happens. The key there is time and response is what matters absolute most. As I say, a cybersecurity incident that gets responded and closed in a few minutes has a much different outcome than one that takes many hours to respond or may not get responded to at all. That has a different outcome entirely. Incident response is certainly one solid area. You should have an incident response plan, but that is not our third recommendation or best bang for the buck. It's important. You have to have it. In fact, HIPAA requires you have it. But an incident response plan is part of the equation. The real bang for the buck is having someone monitoring your environment around the clock. Having a team monitoring your environment around the clock and taking immediate intervention, immediate action when something bad looks like it's happening. That's called MDR, or Managed Detection and Response. And that is my number three recommendation as far as best bang for the buck. An MDR team can spot the bad guy based on the patterns in the data that we're monitoring and take immediate action to unhook or block that bad actor, quarantine that action so that it doesn't have a chance to continue forward. So in summary, you should consider a few things. For the phishing protection and being able to protect the user authentication, the multi-factor, consider the Microsoft E5 security features. That includes Defender for Identity, all the defenders, Defender for Identity, Defender for Office 365, Defender for Cloud, multi-factor, or even better still, think about passwordless authentication, which kind of replaces the need for a password at all. I've included a link in the text form so you can screenshot this or grab the recording and be able to type this in so that you're taken to these links that provide some great information on these particular topics. The second recommendation, think about Purview. Purview is information protection and governance. It is basically the thing that helps us classify automatically and tag sensitive data from public data. It knows the difference. We teach it the difference between sensitive and non-sensitive data, and then we apply those protections to those things that are sensitive. So again, the link is there for you to kind of get a a sense of how it works, call us and we'll talk to you. And the third thing is think about us. Think about Spyglass MDR. Our team can show you the value, the benefit, the cost budget for having a 24/7 by 365 team around the clock monitoring your environment as an extension of your own IT team, being there at 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, monitoring and taking action if bad stuff happens. And again, the link is there for your benefit. I'd like to thank you for taking the time and stay in touch with us and ask us any questions. Thanks again.